Intentionality is going into a discussion with the intention of coming out with something positive and of coming out with something that is progress, that heads us in the right direction, that rather than we've just kind of explored this issue and we might all know more about it, but does that really move us forward? I have used the techniques that I learned at the Innovator training to change the conversation away from problems and challenges to more of a how do we see our world and how can we anticipate what the world will bring us in the coming years, and how can we be ready for those changes? How can we make sure that the changes will be things that will enhance the life of the people we serve? And so it makes it a more constructive, more collaborative conversation, I would say. And then it focuses, I think, the attention more on the positive, away from, as you say, the complaints. I think that is a really good thing. I think it also opens the door for a more collaborative, not as so much us against them, which mentality, which so often we fall into. I think it's easy to find people to blame and situations to blame for problems we have. But when we talk about what kind of a place would you like to be for the rest of your life? And I think we've also seen an inclusion. People who maybe have felt like they didn't have a role in the conversation, people who felt like the conversation was too difficult and too adversarial and they didn't want to be a part of that, they've found now, well, you know, we might be able to have that kind of conversation, a civil conversation from people who come from different points of view. And I think this intentionality, it's the hardest part of it, because it's easier to sit around and talk about, even to talk about how much we'd like to see this, we'd like to see that, but unless we're going into it thinking we're going to get something out of this, we're going to truly make a step in the right direction. And I think it also is important to think that the steps don't have to be giant steps. That sometimes the journey along the way, we have markers along the way that show us that we're making progress, but we learn all the way along the way and can then adjust our plans depending on what we've learned in that process, especially if you're doing it in that constructive way.